Okay, so imagine this. You're a king. You've got the throne, the crown, the whole deal. And then one day, you get murdered. Like actually assassinated. Dead. Gone. Your enemies throw a party. Your kingdom moves on. New king takes over. Everyone's basically written you out of history. Except, you're not actually dead. And you come back. Not metaphorically. Actually back. You reclaim your throne. And then, because apparently history decided to just go completely unhinged, it happens again. You die. Again, you come back. Again. Today we're talking about one of the most insane stories in medieval history. The king who refused to stay dead. His name was Frederick II of Sicily, and his story is so wild that if you pitched it as a TV show, people would say it's too unrealistic. Let's go. It's 1250. Sicily. Frederick II is basically the most powerful king in the Mediterranean. We're talking about a dude who simultaneously ruled Sicily, the Holy Roman Empire, and Jerusalem. He's got armies, he's got wealth, he's got the respect, or fear, of pretty much every major power in Europe. But here's the thing. Frederick has made a lot of enemies. The Pope hates him. The French nobility is suspicious of him. Even some of his own nobles are getting tired of his absolute control. In medieval politics, that's basically a death sentence. Frederick's been fighting the papacy for years over territory and power. The Pope excommunicates him, then excommunicates him again. Then a third time, just to be clear. Frederick responds by doing what powerful guys do. He keeps ruling anyway, and tells the Pope to figure it out. But in 1250, Frederick gets sick. Really sick. He's in Fiorentino, in southern Italy, and his body just starts shutting down. We don't know exactly what it was. Probably some combination of malaria, dysentery, and the fact that medieval medicine was basically apply, leech, hope for the best. On December 13th, 1250, Frederick dies, and the entire power structure of Europe hiccups. This guy has been holding together a delicate balance of power through sheer force of personality and military might. He's dead. So what happens? Chaos. His enemies immediately move to consolidate power. The Pope's thrilled. This is basically his dream scenario. Frederick's son, Conrad, scrambles to hold things together. But he's young and doesn't have his father's reputation. Frederick gets buried in a cathedral in Palermo. The crown passes to Conrad. Everyone assumes that's the end of the story. Frederick II becomes a historical figure, a legend, someone you read about in dusty books. Then something absolutely unhinged happens. Rumors start spreading, whispers in taverns, conversations in monastery halls, people claiming they've seen Frederick, not as a ghost or a spirit, as an actual living person, walking around, talking, very much not dead. The rumors intensify. Some people claim Frederick faked his death, that he got out of Europe, went to the Middle East, and has been living in hiding. Others say he's coming back, that he's gathering an army, that he's going to reclaim his throne and punish everyone who tried to replace him. This isn't some fringe conspiracy theory thing either. Nobles are talking about it. Kings are getting nervous. The Pope is annoyed. Like, if Frederick shows up alive, everything he's worked toward falls apart. And then, in 1260, a man shows up claiming to be Frederick II. It's 1260. A mysterious figure appears in the Middle East. He's got followers. He's got a story. He says his name is Frederick II, rightful king of Sicily and the Holy Roman Empire, and he's come back to reclaim what's his. Here's where it gets weird. A lot of people believe him. Like, actually believe him. Not everyone, obviously. There are plenty of skeptics. But enough people that this becomes a genuine political problem. The thing about medieval Europe is that communication is terrible. News travels slowly. If you've never actually seen Frederick II in person, how do you know he's really dead? Maybe he did escape. Maybe he did go to the Crusader states in the Middle East. Maybe he's been plotting his return this whole time. This fake Frederick, or possibly real Frederick, historians are genuinely unsure, starts gathering support. He's got followers in the Middle East. He's got connections to various powers. He's making noise about coming back and reclaiming Sicily. Conrad, Frederick's son and the current king, is obviously panicking. If this guy actually makes it back to Sicily with an army, Conrad's done. The nobles will switch sides in a heartbeat. Kingdoms run on legitimacy, and nothing says, I have more legitimacy than literally being the previous king. So Conrad does what you do in this situation. He tries to stop this guy. There's a military campaign. There's actual combat. This fake or real Frederick guy is moving, fighting, building momentum. But then, and this is where historians lose track a little bit, the guy just kind of disappears. Maybe he gets defeated. Maybe he gets captured. Maybe he actually was an impostor, and people figured it out. The historical record gets fuzzy here, which is honestly fitting for a story about a guy possibly faking his own death. What we know for sure is that by the 1270s, the rumors died down. The immediate crisis passes. People stop talking about Frederick's return. The political situation stabilizes. Conrad's son becomes king. Time marches on. And then, in 1282, something happens that nobody expects. Another guy shows up, this time in Sicily itself. And he's also claiming to be Frederick II. Okay, so it's 1282. We're now 32 years after Frederick's original death. That's a generation. There are people who weren't even born when Frederick died. And suddenly, there's this dude walking around Sicily saying, hey, I'm Frederick. I'm back. Again. This second guy is different from the first one. He's more convincing. He knows things about Sicily. He knows the landscape, the politics, the nobles. He's got followers, real followers, not just desperate conspiracy theorists. And he's got military support from some pretty serious players. The current king of Sicily at this point is Charles I of Anjou, who is absolutely not thrilled about this development. Charles has been ruling Sicily for like 20 years. He's got it organized. He's got his power structure set up. The last thing he needs is some mysterious guy claiming to be the previous dynasty's ruler showing up with an army. So Charles does what Charles does. He goes to war. There's actual military conflict, real battles. This second Frederick guy is fighting with legitimate military force. He's not just some wandering con artist. He's got actual resources and actual followers. But here's the thing. Charles wins. The fake or real Frederick gets captured. And Charles, being absolutely not interested in this happening a third time, decides to make an example. He executes the guy. Full public execution. Makes sure everyone knows that claiming to be Frederick is a bad life choice. The body is displayed. People see it. Everyone's satisfied that the problem is solved. Fake Frederick is dead. For real this time. Probably. Except, a few years later, rumors start again. More whispers. More claims. And this time, people are saying something even weirder. That the guy Charles executed wasn't actually Frederick either. That Frederick is still out there. That he's going to come back again. At this point, you've got to imagine Charles is just exhausted. Like, how many times do you have to kill the same guy? How is this even possible? Here's the historical mystery that makes this whole thing so fascinating. We actually don't know for certain whether either of these guys was the real Frederick II or not. Medieval chroniclers disagree. Some say they were both impostors. Some say the first one might have been real. Some say the second one was real. Some say neither was. The historical record is genuinely unclear because, and this is important, medieval record-keeping was chaos. What we do know is that the rumors persisted for decades. People genuinely believed that Frederick II might come back. The legend of his return became so powerful that it affected medieval politics. Kings were worried about it. The Pope's officials were monitoring it. People were writing about it in chronicles. Frederick essentially haunted European politics for 30 years after his death, whether he was actually alive or not. So here's where it gets really interesting from a historical perspective. Frederick II never actually came back and reclaimed his throne. He didn't lead a dramatic second reign. He didn't get revenge on his enemies. But in a weird way, he kind of did. The legend of Frederick's return was so powerful that it destabilized Sicily and southern Italy for decades. Nobles were uncertain about succession. Kings were paranoid. People questioned the legitimacy of every ruler who came after Frederick, because there was always this possibility that Frederick might show up. Think about that. A dead guy, definitely dead, been dead for years, was still influencing politics just through the possibility that he might not be dead. That's legitimately one of the most powerful political moves in history, and Frederick didn't even have to do anything. He just had to not be there. There's actually a name for this in medieval history, the Frederick mythology. Historians studying this period talk about how the rumors of Frederick's return became this almost mythological thing that persisted in medieval culture. People wanted to believe it. It fit a narrative. The rightful king, unjustly removed, waiting to return and set things right. In some versions of medieval folklore, Frederick doesn't return as a person. He becomes a legendary figure. He's sleeping in a cave. He's waiting for the right moment. He'll return when he's needed most. Sound familiar? This is literally the King Arthur legend, and historians think the Frederick mythology might have influenced those later legends. What's wild is that this wasn't isolated to Sicily. The legend spread across Europe. Different versions popped up in different places. In Germany, people claimed Frederick was hiding in the mountains. In Italy, people said he was coming back from the Crusades. The story evolved and changed and persisted in medieval culture. The real historical Frederick II was genuinely one of the most important monarchs of his era. He was brilliant. He was powerful. He was basically a proto-Renaissance figure, a couple centuries too early. And his legacy wasn't just his actual accomplishments. It was this myth. This idea that even death couldn't keep him down. And here's the darkly funny part. We still don't actually know for certain whether he came back or not. We don't know if those guys claiming to be Frederick were actually him, or clever impostors, or delusional people, or what. The historical record is genuinely ambiguous. We've got competing chronicles written by people with different biases. We've got rumors and speculation. But that ambiguity, that's actually what makes the story so powerful, because it meant that for decades, people genuinely couldn't be sure. Frederick might have been out there, and that possibility was enough to change history. So in the end, Frederick II did return from the dead. Maybe not literally, but definitely metaphorically. And that's arguably way more impressive than just being a living king reclaiming his throne. He became a legend. He became the kind of story people told to their kids. He became the king who refused to stay dead, whether he was actually alive or not. So that's Frederick II, the king who may or may not have returned from the dead. Twice. Possibly. Maybe. The historical record is genuinely unclear, which somehow makes it a better story. If you like videos about weird historical mysteries and people who should have stayed dead but didn't, or refused to accept they ever were dead in the first place, hit that subscribe button. And if you've got theories about whether Frederick actually came back, or which of those imposters might have been real, drop them in the comments. Because honestly, historians are still arguing about this, so your guess is as good as anyone's. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.